CPI coming out a little bit later today, and Bitcoin is at the absolutely perfect area if it is going to indeed reject and come down and play at a greater pullback. And we're going to be going over some setups today, or at least following up on those setups that we looked at from yesterday's video, as I did indeed fire off and provide, essentially what to be looking for if things are going to, one, pull back, or two, actually, have a nice little pump-ola day. But in this case, I do want to say first things first, I'm sick as this fucking dog right now, feeling absolutely terrible. So just hoping to get through this one, but it is kind of like, it's more or less a positioning day, I do suspect, as we're kind of just spending time between now and today's, today's event. That's likely going to, give the catalyst for an actual direction here. But you can see that Bitcoin is right at the weekly median for CME, and that is officially at 61,250, basically. Again, on CME, there's a slight premium over spot price action. So if Bitcoin can maintain above that number by end of week Friday, that is going to look pretty damn good for solidifying this as a next low. In fact, it would be a higher low, and likely Bitcoin does trade up towards 65, 66,000 bucks. But, with the way things are positioned right now, and typically what we do see on these events, things typically do come towards, in this case, your resistance, a bit of a sticky area at that 61,250-ish region. And if it is going to reject, you would expect it to happen from here. That typically is a setup, actually. So I am still kind of, more, defensive against a downside move here, despite some things in the background, suggesting the opposite. Going into Wednesday to statistics. Oh, and by the way, very important message at the end of this video. Very fucking important message. Wednesdays are actually the most likely today to close negatively of any weekday, that is. Since this year of 2024 began. And while it actually does have the highest positive returns for those positive closing days, it is about a 40-60 split there in favoring negative closures for an average negative return of about just under 2%, 187. So let's see what that would kind of look like in terms of price action, likely giving us a bit of a buffer zone to the upside and downside. Again, do expect some wicks during today's price action to the upside. 3.5% would put Bitcoin basically around the wick high from Thursday of last week, the 8th of August, that is, which is officially about 62,800 or so. Bitcoin could even trade above there today. I would even look at that as a good indication that this is indeed, ready to actually blast up and likely trade between about 65 to 66,000 bucks. And, that would be rather powerful. But until then, there is, at least in my opinion, probably a better downside setup here. Anyways, the negative return to the downside on average, losing about just under 2%, would put Bitcoin about 59,500. I don't think that you're going to see any major slide today. If Bitcoin is going to reject here, it's likely going to close slightly down, and then you do see continuation perhaps Thursday, maybe Friday, something like that. But the setup is there. The setup is there, of course. And as we get into our next chart, let me just go over the daily HPDR on spot right here. Kind of corroborating if Bitcoin does reject, you would be looking for a move likely around that median. Now that median will, it will probably raise up a little bit on tomorrow night's closure, but as of right now, it is down around 55,800. So it probably rises up to 56 and a half, I expect tomorrow. So if Bitcoin does reject from here and you do see Bitcoin close today down, then likely good indication that we will see that, the next actual move, if you want to call it that, somewhere around, 56, maybe 57,000 bucks. Still, however, that would be a higher low compared to what we did see on Monday, or last Monday, I should say, the 5th of August. So ultimately, to me, it's still kind of the same thing as what we've been looking at for this past few days. Does Bitcoin, pop up here, come down and do something like this? Does Bitcoin pop up here and actually take out that last high or close above 61,250 by end of week? One of those two things would obviously make me look at this as obviously gonna, have a nice explosive move to the upside, probably closer to 67,000 bucks now that I look at it. And as we'll look at later, that does corroborate with one of our other targets. But yeah, as of right now, it's going to be a waiting day, I suspect. And, my main message today is just don't get too excited on wicks to the upside as long as Bitcoin is below Thursday of last week's high. If Bitcoin's still below there, it is still kind of a sticky area where you would be expecting a potential rejection if that is indeed going to happen. So it is a long day left to go. It's going to require a bit of patience for this one. But as we go into it, I do want to, of course, speak about, yes, where is it? There it is. The setup that we identified yesterday as likely to fire off. 12-hour setup here and daily actually both simultaneously fired off. We did see that closure above the red 5 exponential moving average. If you're not familiar with this setup right here, it's a very simple setup based off of one of these strategies that we have in the Krown Quant automation service over here. Obviously, you can optimize this significantly more than what we currently have on the board here. But as you can see, not bad results over the full history of Bitcoin. Anyways, in this case, this one did fire off, and in the performance summary, we can see that this does have about a 33% strike rate. So we expect about 2 out of every 3 of these opens to fail, which actually the last one was a success, I should add. And for the winning trades that we do see, returning an average of about 9.5%, and the average losing trade losing an average of about 2% right here. Can you actually see that on the board? Yes, indeed you can. So if Bitcoin were to play out the upside from that, what would that look like in terms of actual targets? Well, about 9% from here. Yeah, okay, about $66,500. So yeah, actually earlier when we just called out around 67, that's probably more accurate, between about 66 to 67, not 65 to 66 in this case. But of course, if Bitcoin closes back down below that red 5, which currently is 60,200 in the next 12-hour period, I don't think that we get too much action between now and the next 12-hour period in 3 hours. But that would kind of nullify this condition, and the daily as well, which the daily fired off pretty much at the exact same time, pretty much at the exact same price as well, 60,200. This one having a little bit better results long term, to be fair, but obviously being a daily, it does have significantly less iterations. So, anyways, my point is that, look, if this one is going to work out, we would expect Bitcoin to obviously maintain, at least in the short term, today's closure above that red 5, which is again 60,200. See Bitcoin close below there by end of day, very good indication that we will see this one come. This one will obviously fail and will likely come down to somewhere around, like, I would estimate 56 to 57,000 bucks. So. Yeah, and of course, this one does have an average loss, or have we gone over the average trades here? This one obviously a lot bigger, being that it is a daily, nearly double the results of what we do see on the 12-hour, but average losing trade of 2.75% versus average winning trade of over 20%. So not a bad setup right there long term. It's just, we actually do expect more of these to fail than not. And the last one actually was a fail. The last 2 were actually failures right here. So looking at it, let's see what that would look like. 3% to the downside. Yeah, that obviously would have put Bitcoin below the 5 exponential, basically around 59. In fact, if you even see like a 59 tick today, like low 59s, that's probably a good early indication that yes, this one is going to reject here and come down first, kind of scare everyone yet again, but still have that chance for a higher low for the Boolah's sake. So just keep that in mind. Again, to the upside, I mean, technically these are upside setups. I wouldn't look at it. I wouldn't look at it as playable personally, because this is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, but if I was playing this manually myself, I wouldn't look at this as like front runnable until you do see at minimum in intraday here that is, until you see at minimum just a tick above Thursday's high, last Thursday that is. So that would be about 62,750 basically, depending upon your exchange. Anyways, it is time for a very important announcement, as I do end this stream, but I should let you know tomorrow I don't think there's going to be a live stream. I'm like, actually, last night was like the worst night in probably years. Like if this is what real Rona is like, you should be scared. It fucking sucks, man. Anyways, here it is, a little cultural lesson to our new Chinese overlords, and you can learn some languages. So here you go, and I'll end on this.
You fuck off. 滚开，滚开，
滚开。
你滚开。